Blake here, just pausing really quick before we get to today's episode and wanted to talk about Photo Camp. Photo Camp is my educational content weekend in Folly Beach, South Carolina, where we have 10 styled shoots, some amazing educational speakers, and we get to hang out together in a luxury camp house by the beach. Literally nothing better. And because I love you guys, I wanted to invite you specifically to apply for the 2025 Photo Camp. So here's the info. The only 2025 Photo Camp is March 13th through 15th. And this year's speakers are going to be Preston Luke, Danielle Hickman, Georgia and Micah McMaster, Shelby Cuenca, and of course, me, Alex Blake. So if you're wanting to grow deeper in community, dive into your creativity, and be coached by photography educators, guys, this is an experience you will not want to miss. So if you're ready to go ahead and apply on the spot, or if you just want more info, you can go to photocampinfo.com or follow PhotoCamp at PhotoCamp Events on Instagram. All right, let's get to the episode. Well, hey guys, welcome back to Let's Create with Alex Blake. I'm your host, Alex Blake. And this week, I'm super pumped because we get to chat with one of my good friends. We actually met on Instagram and now we're real life friends. So this is true friendship. And her name is Sue.
Hi.
Hi, Sue.
Hi.
She's like, is this when I say hi? Guys, Sue is amazing. I can't wait for you guys to get to know her if you don't already. But Sue, tell us kind of a little bit of your like photography and creative journey. Share your story with us.
Okay, I am a photographer based in Colorado, and I like to do creative portraits, mainly seniors, but I still do a little bit of everything. And I started photography about 4 years ago, right after I graduated high school.
That is actually crazy to think about, like being a high schooler or yeah, I feel like there's so many photographers that reach out to me. I'm sure they do to you, Sue, but like they'll reach out to me and they're so young. I just cannot imagine starting a business in high school or like right after high school. It's kind of nuts to think about.
It is, yeah.
Like even for photo camp, if you guys don't know, Sue was actually one of my speakers for this last photo camp and she attended in April too. So it was cool because she was like an attendee for April and then a speaker for October 2024. But yeah, it's crazy though, because even for photo camp, we had high schoolers come that like run their own businesses and they're like awesome at it. And obviously they're like investing in it with education. It's kind of crazy.
It is crazy, yeah, especially to be investing that much in high school. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, no, I can't either. And being able to like self-fund those things too from your business is just like a pretty incredible thing. So how is that starting your business so young?
It was interesting because for a long time, I wasn't planning on being a photographer. It kind of just happened to me. I was planning on going to college for marine biology, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
got it. Very different.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it was kind of during COVID also. I just picked up the camera and people just started asking me for pictures and I fell in love with it. And so
That's
it was
so cool.
an interesting change because it was never what I imagined for myself.
That's such a crazy concept to me because Sue, you are so creative. I feel like anybody that knows Sue like knows her creativity. And like if you follow her, you can see it in every single shoot that she does. Like you're so creative. So to imagine you doing something that isn't like what everybody else maybe thinks of as creative is like wild to me.
Yeah, I know. When I think back on it, I feel like I was definitely meant to be a photographer.
Totally. Well, I agree with that. Okay, so let's talk about photo camp. Is there anything that sticks out to you about photo camp at all? Like any fun story, or do you want to share like a memory or anything from this past photo camp?
So I do think it was interesting. I just listened to your last episode where you were talking about photo camp a little bit, and you said how you felt really inspired after this photo camp, but you felt a little bit more drained last time. And I thought it was interesting because I felt the exact same way.
Really?
And I feel like I did so much more this photo camp, having spoke and modeled. I was busy all the time, but when I got home, I didn't feel tired at all. Like even after spending 13 hours in the airport, I was ready to go. I was super inspired. So it was really cool to see it as an attendee and then as a speaker.
That is really cool. Yeah, I don't even know like what that was. I'm almost wondering if a piece of it had to do with like I did the last one in April and then in October. So time of year was different too. And it's interesting because October is definitely a busier season for me and for a lot of photographers too. So I wonder if being able to like pull back during that time, I don't know. But the next one's in March. So we'll see, how I feel after that one too, after running another one in the spring. But I definitely think like spring is like special to get to go to do stuff like that because it's like gearing up into busy season a little bit, at least for like us senior photographers. Summer is crazy for me. So
yeah, I feel like also I always feel the most inspired at this time of year for some reason.
Really?
Like spring and summer is harder for me, but then when it comes to like fall and New Year's, I always get really inspired.
That's super interesting. I feel like a lot of people say the opposite. So I wonder why that is. Do you think it has to do with like planning and looking forward to the next year?
Yeah, and also just how busy I am in the summer. I get a little overwhelmed, I think.
Yeah, I do too. That's why I'm excited to do photo camp in March because it's pushing it 1 month ahead of like the last year spring one and be able to like kind of have that in that way it like fuels me into busy season rather than it being kind of like more in it, I guess.
I think that'll be great, especially for people who are in school, because I was in school in April and I left like right before finals, and that was actually a really hard time for me.
Oh, well, then that makes sense as to why you went back and you weren't like ready to go photography wise. You were like, no, I need to study.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully March will be a really good time, but I'm super excited because that is like my only photo camp of 2025. So it'll be fun because hopefully it'll be big and lots of people there, and kind of combining the two. So hopefully it'll feel inspiring for people and nurturing and like people are rested as they leave. And yeah, it's going to be good. But I was so thankful to have you at photo camp. Seriously, Sue's talk, guys, was so awesome. And I even talked about it in my podcast episode that Sue, you just referenced, but like everything you said just resonated so much with so many different photographers. And truly, like Zach and I said this to you when we were in the car after you like had modeled and spoke in the same day. And I was like, I'm so sorry I did that to you on the same day. But we just said like, so cool because the things that you've gone through in life get to be the things that you pull people up with too. Like it's like the things that you have struggled with the most are also the things that you stand on and can help people through because you understand and you resonate with it and people just really feel like you see them. And I think that's such a like special thing. My friend Shelby, who's actually speaking at the next photo camp, was there and she said like Sue just made me feel seen. And I think that's such a special thing that like you have that gift of making people feel seen. So seriously, thank you. Thank you for who you are.
I miss Shelby. It was so great meeting her. But also I was shocked when you asked me to speak. I was like, what do I have that other people want to hear about? So when you asked me, I had to reflect a lot on myself of what I could say that people would even care to listen to. So over the months preparing for photo camp, I actually learned a lot about myself in that time preparing my speech. And it was really awesome to see how it all came together because I know that I've felt these insecurities struggling with shyness, but I wasn't sure how much other people dealt with that. And I was shocked by the amount of people who told me they felt the same thing.
Yeah, I really do think like that your shyness is truly a gift in a weird way because you are able to help so many people that are also shy and like people that don't feel seen because they're always having to like force themselves to talk and like nobody can see other people's struggles on the inside but like you calling those things out and like kind of naming them in yourself and everything I just think is like the coolest thing in the world that people feel seen by you. So I think that's really cool. But funny enough, it's not really what the episode is about. So, I mean, I guess kind of. It's about like confidence, I guess, but also just like creativity and portraits. So, I want to go ahead and dive into like the meat of the episode, if you will, and kind of shifting gears. Let me ask you the first question. How has creating self-portraits? Nope, that's not the first question. We'll get back to that in a second. Totally off my notes, guys. You guys know I need to stick to my notes more. Okay. What is what inspired you to create self-portraits and then share them online? So, so we're going to talk about like creative portraits and talk about the confidence, but really that did start with you sharing self-portraits. So kind of talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so really, I was like, I'm a photographer and I don't have any cute photos of myself. So I really just wanted to feel cute and get some fun photos of myself. So I was like, okay, I'll try self portraits. And I set it up and I was shocked by how difficult it was. Like a little bit of the technical side, but a lot
Yeah.
of just mentally going into it. Whenever I started taking them, I was like, okay, I actually have no idea what to do, no idea how to get a good photo of myself. And so that realization kind of made me want to challenge myself to learn it and do it more. So I started my series of taking self portraits once a month to build self confidence. And I really started sharing that because I thought it would be good content for my photography channel to kind of share that, and then a little bit of a way to build more connection with my audience, to show people who I am and to show my face. So that's why I decided to start posting it and to start taking them.
Yeah. That's actually really cool because I hadn't even really thought about that. I guess it is a way to just like engage with your audience, because I don't know about you, but like for me, my most engaged photos that I post are always of myself or me and Zach, or like what we're doing. And even on my stories and stuff, like the things that are always most engaged have my face on it, because people care about me and my life. And like for you to share self-portraits, it's cool because it is a really cool combination of your photography, but then also you, and people want to get to know you as Sue. So that is really cool. But okay, now to that second question that I started. Has creating self-portraits helped you grow in confidence personally and creatively? And if so, then how?
It's helped me grow in so many ways. I've never been super insecure about the way that I look, but it has helped me become more confident in that, because even though I've never loved photos of myself, it made me find a new beauty in them. And so it helped me to kind of look at myself differently. Even though I was never super insecure, I was never super confident either. So it really helped me to feel more confidence in who I am. And the whole process, I feel like, just helped me to discover so many things about myself, because I had always been so shy. And so it pushed me to try new things and creatively.
Sure.
Okay, sure.
Creatively. Wait, creatively.
Yeah. That's the word. Creatively.
We're just girls, okay.
Yeah. Creatively, I feel like it has definitely helped me grow as a photographer, because it's helped me to slow down. When you take self-portraits, there's really no pressure. So it's helped me to slow down and pay attention to the lighting and composition and try new things. So it has helped me grow both creatively and personally.
That's cool. Explain a little bit. I know you said you kind of do them like monthly and stuff. Explain maybe like your process of what that looks like. Because when you say there's like no pressure and to slow down, to be honest, anytime that I have done self-portraits, like it does feel like pressure, and maybe it shouldn't, but like sometimes I can kind of get in my head a little bit about it, of where like, I don't know, I want to rush things, or I just need a couple shots. I don't want to have to edit a ton after. Like I kind of get in my head a little bit about it. So talk through your process with that.
That's so true. And I felt the same way. And one thing I've realized about self portraits is it takes a lot longer than you would think it would. I would say it takes about twice as long as a regular session.
Yeah.
And that's something that I didn't prepare for at first. And so I would feel rushed and overwhelmed because it wasn't going how I planned. And that's another thing. I feel like self portraits don't go as you plan, like ever. So you really have to learn to just go with the flow with them. But how I prepare for it is I typically try and put aside the whole day, or at least half the day, to prepare for it. And I get a concept in my mind of what I want to do, and then I plan my outfit and hair and makeup, and then I will set up my camera on a tripod. And that's really when it hits me, when I'm like, okay, I don't want to do this. Like, why am I doing this? And so to kind of get past that, I'll put on some music, which really helps to get out of my head and to feel a little bit more natural. And then I'll go on Pinterest and look up some poses that I want to try to just kind of get started and get into it. and then it kind of flows from there.
So are you planning the concept for your self-portrait day of, or are you planning it like before and then kind of that like half a day or whatever that you're putting aside is just for taking the pictures, doing your makeup, all of that kind of stuff?
Well, I have a Facebook group where I post concepts each month. So there are kind of like a little bit of a guideline where I'm like, this self-portrait might be about shadows or something. So I'll think about that. But usually I won't know exactly what I'm going to do until the week before. It kind of always just comes to me. And once I get the idea, I know I have to do it right then.
That's kind of cool. I think maybe that's like, I don't have the like plan going into it, and I'm wondering if that's what makes me a little stressed out, because I'm like thinking of the plan and this sounds good, but then I can't execute it the way I would want to because I don't have this prop or I don't have that outfit or something like that. And then it feels almost like a letdown because I like have this big creative idea and then I'm like, okay, but I don't have time for all that, Alex, like, you gotta chill out. And then it doesn't like execute my vision well. So do you have any tips for that? That's just like a random question off the top of my head, but
I think it goes like that every time, honestly. I think it really just has to go with going with the flow. You just have to be okay with it not turning out how you envision, because I don't think I've ever taken self-portraits where it turned out how I envisioned it. Okay. Honestly.
See, that's crazy to hear. I mean, it's like helpful to hear because I love your photos. And so like if your photos are coming out that way, but it's not your vision, then like everything's going to be fine. But it's also like, dang it.
Yeah, it is a lot easier to plan a client shoot like that where you're taking the pictures of someone else and you can be in control of everything. Mm-hmm. But with self-portraits, you have to be okay with not being in control.
So maybe that's the thing that's pushing you then. Not being in control. Maybe that's the thing that needs to push me.
Yeah, I need to see more of your self-portraits, Alex.
I know. Sue's been telling me this for probably 2 years now. I feel like since the first time that we ever like had a video call, I feel like this is what you've been telling me. Yes. So I've been trying to get Sue to start a podcast. So
okay, I am.
Are you? Is this some tea? Is it really happening?
It is. Very soon. I can't tell you when, but very soon.
Okay, guys, you heard it here first. Okay, so what kind of tips do you have for photographers? Obviously, I'm struggling with the control issue, but what kind of tips do you have for those who are struggling, maybe like you were with like the self-confidence or putting themselves out there?
I would say that it is difficult, but that's okay, because you do have to push yourself a little bit to feel uncomfortable. But if you keep doing it and keep showing up, you will eventually build confidence. And I think it's really interesting because when I started sharing my self-portraits online, I would get a ton of comments saying, self-portraits don't make me feel more confident, they make me feel less confident. And a lot of people do struggle with taking self-portraits. And I realized I had felt the same way because they kind of made me feel less confident at first because I didn't like the way they turned out or the photos of myself. Mm-hmm. So I realized that you really have to go into it with the right mindset. So you have to be really kind to yourself and patient. So that would be my tips for you, is to just be kind to yourself and look at the photos as if they're somebody else, not yourself.
I loved when you said that at photo camp. You said that and I was like, that is so good. Yeah, like looking at the photo as if they're a photo of somebody else. Because you said this, I think, at photo camp, but you would never look at a photo of someone else and be like, ugh. You're not going to do that because everyone is beautiful. And as photographers, we see the beauty in people, but yet somehow we struggle with seeing the beauty of ourselves, of a photo of ourselves. So I thought that was really good. Something that I have noticed with like editing side of things, like editing pictures of myself, sometimes I can get over critiquey and all the things in a way that I wouldn't with a client. However, there's also a piece of that that's been kind of helpful too, because there are things that like I'll see on my own face that I want to fix in a photo with editing, and I'm not talking about like, oh, let me add some filler here or something like that in Photoshop. That's not what I'm talking about. But like little things like I want to brighten like my under eyes in photos because both you and we have dark features. So sometimes the shadows can be heavier there. Okay, well, great. When I have a client with dark features too, I'm going to do that for those photos. So it does kind of teach me little editing
tips and tricks and stuff like that by editing photos of myself. So I will say that that's a helpful one.
Yeah, that's so true.
Okay, so you kind of talked about this a little bit because I kind of half asked it, but what's your typical process for planning and executing a creative self-portrait shoot? And if you want, you could even talk about like a specific one, like one with your glitter shoot with it on your tongue or something. If you want to like talk specifically, you totally can.
Okay. I might talk a little bit more about the technical side of actually setting it up.
Do it.
So I get a tripod and I put my camera on a tripod, and then I use my phone and I connect my camera to my phone with an app. For me, it's Imaging Edge because I use Sony, but it's different depending what camera you have. And then from there, I can see myself on my phone. Like I can see what my camera sees, and I can also control my camera. So that makes it a lot easier. It's also helpful if you put a mirror in front of you because really just seeing yourself changes a lot. And then I like to record behind the scenes. So sometimes I would even steal like my husband's phone, Zach's phone.
And we have the same, not the same husband. We have the same husband's name. Wait, our husbands have the same name. That was the weirdest way in the entire world to say that. But yeah, Sue is also married to a Zach. That's all I'm saying.
So many Zachs. Yeah, so I would steal his phone sometimes and set it up on a separate tripod to record behind the scenes. But recently I just got a different camera to record behind the scenes. Sometimes I would also take my phone and just record, even though I'm not taking pictures because it's not connected, but I would just record myself going through the motions just so I'll have a little behind the scenes. So then my camera's connected to my phone, and I like to put it on continuous shutter so that I don't have to click the button every time I want to take a picture. It will just automatically take them like every second. And then I'll just move around and get some motion. And I set my camera on facial tracking, so it will track myself. And really, I don't have to do anything technical once I set that up.
Cool. Do you feel like there's a lag with your app? Because both of us shoot Sony, and I feel like in the past when I've taken photos, the app has like a lag for me, and then that I get frustrated very easily with that.
Yeah, the lag is actually really bad, but that's why I said to put a mirror in front of you instead of relying on looking at your phone, because it is a little bit behind and you're like waiting for it to update.
Yeah.
But I think all apps have a lag, honestly, because I had Nikon before Sony, and I also didn't
I
have
had
a good
Canon before
experience.
Sony, and Canon also had a lag. So I guess it's all up in there. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just something where you just have to learn patience with it. But I do think like the mirror thing is a great idea.
Yeah.
Because then you're able to see yourself like straight on versus like wherever your phone is next to you or something.
I've even found with client photo shoots, because I have a mirror in my studio and I like to put it where they can see themselves. And I've seen like a dramatic change when they can see themselves in the photo, when they can see how they look like through the mirror in the way that they can pose themselves. Even clients can pose better when they see themselves.
That's really cool. And I guess that makes sense. A big posing tip is to practice in the mirror first. So you're just allowing them to see themselves. That's actually a great idea. I might try that for my next studio shoot.
It is really helpful. But I also do want to say, if you're like a newer photographer, or maybe you're not a photographer, but you still want to take self-portraits, if you're a little intimidated by the technical side of it, you can absolutely take self-portraits with your phone.
Yeah.
I've done it a few times, just setting my phone on a video and just moving around and screenshotting the video, and they've come out better than I expected.
How does that work with editing?
I just send them to my laptop and edit them in Lightroom how I normally would. They're a little bit more grainy, obviously, but
sure. Yeah, I mean, it's probably not going to be good for print, but you're probably not going to be printing a ton of your like self-portraits anyway.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, that's really good. Can you share, I know you were saying like nothing ever really goes as planned sort of thing. Like, can you share like a funny or a memorable story of where something didn't go as planned?
I've had a ton of gear malfunctions.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Like I told this at photo camp too, but for one self-portrait I was setting up and I had a cup of water on my table and it spilled right on top of my camera. And my camera stopped working. It was not turning on. The screen was black. And So I set my camera in some rice.
Oh my gosh.
And then I just did the video thing and took self-portraits on my phone because I already had everything set up. I was dressed, ready to go, had the props, and my camera stopped working. So I just took them on my phone, but I've had like my battery die when I'm covered in glitter.
Amazing. That's crazy. Was your camera okay? Like after being in the rice?
I left it in the rice for about 2 days and it was fine after that.
No way.
Yeah.
That is like insane. And also my worst nightmare. Like truly.
Yeah. It was.
Especially because I do so many shoots at the beach. I'm like, no, water and camera. No, no, no. You know?
I've had so many camera malfunctions in general. This isn't related to self-portraits, but I had a photo shoot at the river one time and my camera lens snapped off my camera and fell into the river.
Stop. How does that happen?
I don't know.
No, that is my worst nightmare. I need to do horror stories of just gear malfunctions, I think, and then only tell stories from Sue because you have so many good ones. Actually, no. If anybody else has gear malfunction stories, DM me because I want to hear them and maybe they'll end up on the podcast. But also, they give me anxiety, so maybe I don't need to hear them. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you learn from those things? Like when all of the like gear malfunctions happen or things don't go as planned, like what is it that you learn in those moments?
That's where I learned a lot to really go with the flow and not have too high of expectations, to just be happy with what you get and what results you get. But also from the one where I took them on my phone, a big part of what I learned is that you don't need expensive gear to get good photos because the ones on my phone are some of my favorite self-portraits that I've ever taken.
That's cool. Yeah, that's really cool. Something that's unique too is kind of like I said, like these aren't meant to be printed. So you can kind of have more fun with it in a way too. And you could add all the grain in the world to it, or, you know, you can crop it really tight and close and like just play around creatively and just for fun because like you are the client in this way. So like, you know what you're going to use it for. You don't have to worry about the resolution of it. You can just like have fun and see what happens. I do love that like kind of aspect of it. That's really cool. Okay, so my last question for you, and kind of like I said, the meat of the episode is really changing gears a little bit, but I think it's such an interesting thing that you started this self-portrait journey really for yourself in a lot of ways and for your confidence and stuff like that. But you also have a really big audience and a group of followers on TikTok and on Instagram. So how did you build such a strong presence there? But then also, have you seen that like your following has influenced your photography in any way?
So I think I started to build a following because when I started posting my self-portraits, how many people connected to that feeling?
Yeah.
I started getting a ton of followers from my self-portraits. And that's when I realized this was something people care about. So that's when I created a Facebook page for taking self-portraits for people who wanted to get more into that, but just needed a community and something to push them. And I feel like that's helped a lot to build a lot of my community and that connection because I've met multiple people in my self-portrait Facebook group, and it's been really cool to grow with all of them. And I would say it has helped me, or my TikTok, posting on TikTok has changed my business a lot because it's helped me build a stronger brand with my self-portraits, just putting my face out there. And I feel like it has helped me influence a little bit, just making that connection with people. Like you said before, just making people feel seen.
Yeah.
I don't know if necessarily how much influence I have, but I definitely have felt a lot of connection with a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where influence starts, is the connection, right? Because it's like when people are influencers, they're not going to influence anybody to do anything if it doesn't first stem from relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it first starts with the connection. So I definitely think so. I think like even just my whole podcast episode that you referenced earlier, where I was talking about creative inspiration, I was influenced by our connection and you sharing something that resonated with me. And then it caused me to go think about some creative things, and creative portraits that I can start taking and all of that kind of stuff. So I definitely think that you 100% have been influencing people, just to encourage you on that one.
Thanks. I'll take it.
Okay. So every time that I have a guest, I've been asking my guest to give me a question to ask my next podcast guest. So I actually had a podcast guest. I did 2 podcast interviews today, and I'm like kind of batching them. So this one's going to come out next week. So by the time people are listening to this, they will have listened to an episode with Cassidy Lynn, who was also speaking at Photo Camp in 2024 for the last episode. So your question came, what am I saying? The question I'm about to give you came from Cassidy. Okay. And it's funny because I don't think she knew when she was thinking of this question that it was you, but it's, where do you get your inspiration?
Okay.
Sue, you're so funny because you're like, hold on, I need to think. 1 second. You're so cute.
Well, that's such a hard question because I get inspiration from so many things.
Yeah. She said that too. So you're not alone in that.
Yeah. I would say you mentioned this too, but I do get a lot of my inspiration from my moods and emotions. Mm-hmm. I like to reflect on how I'm feeling, and I let that kind of influence sometimes even my client photo shoots, but usually my self-portraits, in the way of like, what is the lighting going to be like? Do I want to use moody lighting or natural lighting? And even sometimes what props I want to use and what poses I want to use. So yeah, I would say just reflecting on what I'm going through.
I think that's cool because like for me, I like to like pick an emotion and then go with it. But I think for you, it really is like photos are your journal in a lot of ways, and it helps you to process because you reflect and you're thinking of an emotion that you're currently feeling, which I think is just a really unique and cool perspective to have. So I'm curious if other people listening to this also do that. I think that's just really cool. Okay, Sue, what should I ask the next guest on my podcast?
You should ask them something like serious or silly.
Either one, whatever you want. It's your question.
Okay, I want to know if, I know you don't always do photographers, so whatever they are, if they're not doing what job they currently have, what would they be?
Ooh. Okay, I have to write it down. If you're not doing your current job, what job would you have?
Yes.
Is that okay? So I was like, is that
like if you weren't a photographer, what would you be?
Okay. Perfect. That's a good question. I'm excited. What do you think the answer would be for you?
Maybe marine biologist.
Oh, but true. Which is so funny. I just think like that's such a wildly different, profession than what we do. I think that's so funny, but also so cool because it does show like you can be so all in a really creative job and have so many different parts to your personality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. Okay. Where can everyone find you to follow you and learn from you?
You can find me everywhere at Sue.Shutterbug.
Perfect. And to clarify, Shutterbug is not her last name. I think Cassidy thought that for a long time.
Megan actually told me I should change my last name to Shutterbug.
Honestly, that'd be fun. Zach might be a little confused, but
yeah.
But her last name is Duke Minier.
Yes, good job.
I was going to say, did I pronounce it right?
Most
okay, good.
Yeah.
I love your last name. I think it's so cute. But yes, Sue Shutterbug on all social platforms. And really, that's all we got for you guys today. Sue, anything else that you want to share with the people?
Nope, I think that's all for today.
Perfect. Guys, I love y'all so much. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, review. It really, really helps me anytime that you guys can review the podcast because it helps other people to find us. Okay, you've been listening to Let's Create with Alex Blake. I'm your host, Alex Blake, and I will see you guys next Thursday. Bye.
I just want to make something that matters to me.